What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for the Champions League predictions. Make sure you get your predictions down in the comments below and do subscribe, because if we reach 30,000 subscribers before the 1st of January 2025, I'll be introducing La Liga, Serie A and Bundesliga prediction videos to the channel as well. Here are the winning accumulators that we've had since before the international break. I'm actually recording this before the Premier League prediction video goes up because I'm away on a business trip in Sheffield, actually, funnily enough, which, as you can see, featured at the top of our low-scoring correct score double with Sheffield United beating Sheffield Wednesday. That actually says Sheffield untied, so we'll go Sheffield United. But I'm going to Sheffield next week, so I'm recording this on the Thursday, the 21st of November. So I don't know any of the Premier League results or weekend results or anything like that, but I've got to do the Champions League predictions early to get them up for you lot. But yeah, you can scroll through and take a look, pause if you want to see all of the winning accumulators. If you want to join, then just click the top link in the description below. Flashing up on the screen are all of the people that are supporting me over on Patreon, and it's people like you that give me and afford me the time to do all of the research for these videos, all of the editing. I do everything on YouTube myself. I know a lot of bigger channels have editors and everything like that. I've always done it all by myself, and I get to do all the research for the Patreon and the YouTube members and everything like that because of all of you that support me over there. You make it possible. So if you want to shout out in every single video and you want access to the exclusive members group chat, tips from all kinds of leagues across the world, whether that's in Indonesia, Argentina, Thailand, Africa, any place in the world, there's going to be tips over there on the Patreon. So be sure to go and check that out using the link in the description. And without further ado, let's get into the Champions League. Kicking off, we do have Slovan Bratislava up against AC Milan. Obviously, Bratislava, we tipped over on the Patreon before the Champions League began, would finish 36th in the Champions League group stage. They're looking at, I think the odds are just over 2 now. So that was looking like a good shout, but you never know. I do actually think they can score against AC Milan here. Now, obviously, AC Milan, they got their shock win against Real Madrid in the previous game week. I predicted that would end 3-1, but I thought it would go 3-1 to Real Madrid, and AC Milan won 3-1. I'm going to go for a repeat scoreline away from home for Milan, AC Milan to win 3-1. Because I'm not super confident that Bratislava can score, I think they will, but I wouldn't put money on it. My tip is going to be AC Milan and over 2.5 goals at 1.53. Obviously, much less odds, or much lower odds than AC Milan, both teams to score, but for obvious reasons. Now, after this, it's Sparta Prague up against Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid going great guns. I'm going to say Atletico Madrid win. I'm going to say 2-1, and the tip will be Madrid to win at 1.65. Obviously, this is the Champions League video, so I'm not going to spend as much time on each game because we essentially have double the amount of games, more or less, that we would for a Premier League video. So let's delay no further and move over to Barcelona up against Brest. Now, Brest have been one of the standout surprise teams of the Champions League, getting some great results. So I will give them a goal here, but it's literally impossible to look past Barcelona here in this fixture. So I'm going to say Barcelona to get a high-scoring win, 4-1. But to give full credit to Brest, my tip will be Barcelona and both teams to score at 2.6. Feel free to look at the Barcelona -2 handicap market, but I don't expect the odds will be as high as 2.6. The odds will probably be more like 1.92 for Barcelona -2 handicap, but that obviously allows for the 3-0 or something like that. Moving on, we have Bayer Leverkusen up against FC Salzburg. Salzburg got a brilliant result in the previous game week. Bayer Leverkusen, it's been a little bit hit and miss, but I think they're going to win this game at home. I'm going to say that they win 3-1, and the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.8. They should get back to winning ways. Now we have an absolute belter, a repeat of what was the only ever watch-along on this channel, fun fact, the Champions League final in 2020 between Bayern Munich and PSG. And it's still on the channel. If you go, I think if you go to most popular videos, it will be near the top, the Bayern Munich PSG watch-along. That was a good time. But I think Bayern Munich are going to win here. They've been very good this season, and albeit PSG have been good too, they just lost out to Atletico Madrid. Bayern Munich, I think they're going to win this one quite comfortably, actually. So I'm going to go for another 3-1 win. And the odds were good enough for just Bayern Munich to win at 1.61. I thought about Bayern Munich and both teams to score, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm going to say Bayern Munich to win at 1.61. Now afterwards, it's high-flying Inter Milan up against RB Leipzig. Now, Leipzig have had a pretty good season domestically, but in the Champions League, it's just not clicking. They lost out to Celtic last time out quite heavily as well. So I think Inter Milan can win this. Inter obviously beating Arsenal 1-0 in the previous game week. I could see a repeat of that. So I'm going to go for Inter to win 1-0. And the tip is going to be Inter Milan to win at 1.45. Moving on, we go to the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City up against Feyenoord. Now, City at the weekend are going to be playing Tottenham. I think they will be able to get a win there. And I think they're going to go from strength to strength against a very exciting and entertaining to watch team in Feyenoord. The odds for City to win are an absolute joke, so I'm going to add both teams to score. But I'm going to go high scoring and say that Man City win 4-2. And the tip Man City and both teams to score is valued at 2.6. Now, after this, we have Sporting up against Arsenal. Arsenal are actually favourites to win this game, and I'm not quite sure why. Arsenal are playing Nottingham Forest this weekend. I've predicted a low-scoring Arsenal win, but Sporting, they've got the informed striker in Gyökeres, once again smashing on international break. Sweden, I mean, there's no way they should have been in Nations League C anyway. I think over on the Patreon, I tipped Sweden -2 handicap at about 1.8, and they beat Azerbaijan 6-0. Gyökeres scored 4 goals. Kulusevski scored 2 goals. Sporting look like an absolute unit. They beat Man City 4-1, so the fact that Arsenal are favourites, I just don't understand. I am going to split the difference and say that Arsenal, given that City got absolutely battered, Arsenal sort of go here with their eyes open, their wits about them type thing. So I'll go for a 1-1 draw, and I'll tip both teams to score at 1.57. But honestly, Sporting double chance is probably about 1.6, and that's about the same odds as both teams to score. So I would look at Sporting double chance as well. I don't think Arsenal can go there and beat them, to be honest. But moving on to the final game of the day, it's Young Boys up against Atalanta. I'm not going to dwell on this one too much. Atalanta look really good. Young Boys look out of their depth. So I'm going to go for another repeat result of the previous game week for Atalanta, where they got a 2-0 win away against Stuttgart. I'm going to say 2-0 again, and the tip will be Atalanta to win at 1.42. Not great odds, but good to add to an accumulator. Now, moving on to the next day, we have Red Star Belgrade up against the aforementioned Stuttgart, and I think this is going to be an interesting one. I think Stuttgart can actually get a win, so I'm going to say that they win 2-1, but rather than going the result market, because Red Star Belgrade can be a bit of a problem at home, I'm going to say both teams to score at 1.61 as my tip. After this, we have Sturm Graz up against Girona. Now, Sturm Graz, they came off of a 1-0 loss against Dortmund. They defended pretty well. I struggled actually to separate these two teams. I can understand why Girona is the favourite, but they're not quite clicking like they were last year, the team that saw the amazing run that they had and got them to the Champions League. So, given that they're away from home, I'm going to split the difference here and give Sturm Graz a good point. 1-1 draw, and once again, the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.61. After this, it's another big game at Villa Park. It's Aston Villa up against Juventus. Now, I know I wouldn't say Juventus, they're not in the best of form, but Aston Villa aren't in the best of form either. And I just don't see Villa beating Juve. I mean, beating Bayern and Juve, I don't know. It could happen, but I think Juve are a decent team. They look a little bit disjointed, but they just seem to, for the most part, get the job done. So I'm going to say another 1-1 draw, and I'm actually going to shade Juventus and say Juventus double chance at 1.57. If Aston Villa were the underdogs in this game, I'd probably shade Aston Villa double chance. I don't see a winner, so I've gone for value. Juventus double chance at 1.57. Now, after this, a game that I'm not going to spend too much time on, it's Bologna up against Lille. Lille have had a great start to their Champions League campaign. Bologna, they faced some tricky opposition, but they've seen all 4 of their opening UCL games go under 2.5 goals. I'm going to follow that trend. Before I knew that was the case, I already wrote down 0-0 as my score prediction, so I'm going to say 0-0. The tip is under 2.5 goals at 1.8. I could see Lille nicking this with a 1-0 win, but I'll just say 0-0 because it's satisfying to correctly predict that should it come in. Now, after this, it's Celtic up against Club Brugge. Celtic, a brilliant result against RB Leipzig, winning 3-1, and Club Brugge, a brilliant result against Villa, winning 1-0. I'm going to back Celtic here. I know I say typically, most years in the Champions League, I do think Celtic are a little bit out of their depth, but they've shown promising things, and beating RB Leipzig was a brilliant result, especially after the battering that Dortmund gave them earlier on in the competition. So I'm going to give Celtic the win. I'll say Celtic to win 2-1, but once again, I'm going to tip both teams to score at 1.57 because there's usually a lot of goals in Celtic games, and I see no reason as to why that won't continue. I think less goals than the likes of Leipzig and Dortmund's game because Club Brugge games tend to be lower scoring, but I think Club Brugge can get 1, and I don't see Bruges winning to 0 away against Celtic. So that's my logic there. Now, afterwards, it's Dynamo Zagreb up against Borussia Dortmund. Zagreb got a brilliant result against, I believe it was Bratislava in the previous game week, 4-1. The odds were nearly evens for Zagreb to win, which I thought was insane. And they're playing Borussia Dortmund, and I am just going to shade it to the Germans. I think Zagreb, they had showed a good account of themselves, against Slovan Bratislava, but there's levels. This is the team that lost 9-2 to Bayern Munich. So I'm going to say Dortmund win 2-1. And you know what? As tricky as Dortmund have been in the past to predict, Borussia Dortmund to win at 1.72 doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to press the button on that. Now, afterwards, it is, along with, I would say, Bayern and PSG, the game of the week. It's Liverpool up against Real Madrid. I mean, there's some great games here this week. You've got Bayern, PSG, City, Feyenoord, Sporting, Arsenal, Liverpool, Real Madrid. The game of the week. And I was really struggling with this one. I initially looked at this and thought a draw, maybe a 2-2 draw, but I think the momentum is with Liverpool. They're at the weekend, they are playing Southampton at St. Mary's. I think they'll get a win there. It's the Anfield effect. Liverpool are the informed team in Europe along with Barcelona, and I'm just going to shade the win. I'll say Liverpool to win 2-1. I think if it's at Real Madrid, I'd probably say a draw, and Real Madrid have some special players, but they just got battered by AC Milan, so I'm going to shade it to home form, Liverpool 2-1. But again, I'm going to tip both teams to score at 1.5. That is something I'm extremely confident on. Liverpool beat Leverkusen to 0 when I was expecting both teams to score, but Real Madrid are not Leverkusen. They're better, and I think they will score. So Liverpool to win 2-1, both teams to score at 1.5. After this, it's Monaco up against Benfica. Monaco, one of the 2 teams, I believe, this season to beat Barcelona, largely helped due to a red card. Monaco won 2-1. Benfica, they're a good team. They recently smashed Porto 4-1, I think it was, in the cup. But I think this is going to be quite tricky for them going away from home. I'm going to say that it'll be a high-scoring 2-2 draw. But just in case it's a result on both teams to score either way, my tip is going to be both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at 1.9. Now, the final game, it is PSV up against Shakhtar Donetsk. And I think PSV are actually going to win this one quite comfortably, and I really like the odds, so I'm just going to get straight to it. PSV 3, Shakhtar Donetsk 0, and the tip is going to be PSV -1 handicap at 2.1. So that is going to do it. Those are my predictions for week 5 of the Champions League. Thank you, as always, for all of your support. Like I said, drop your predictions down in the comments below. Leave a like whilst you're there, and subscribe to join us on the road to 30,000 subscribers. That is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.